Just a little forewarning, please disregard all of the sweat on my forehead that you're about to see. It's super hot in my car, but we can't just give up on the gimmick. It's only episode 2.
Hey guys, welcome to the Backseat podcast. As always, I'm your host, Mike Goodman. We're going to get started today on Survivor 42, episode number 8. This is following our merge episode. This is very, very spoiler intensive, so if you have not seen the episode, I would not recommend watching this. We have Chanel going home. That's obviously huge. It's very bad for my fantasy survivor on Facebook because I picked her, and you lose points if your person goes home, which, you know, you win some, you lose some. The beginning of our episode starts with Mary Ann having a complete breakdown. Even in her confessionals, you can tell that it was very authentic, and it was sad to see a lot of her old emotions about not really being accepted and kind of being an outcast. You know, as the tribe kind of starts to merge a little bit further, they're starting to get to know each other more and more. Mike and Omar in particular have a very, very nice moment where Omar begins to pray and Mike is asking questions. He's being very respectful. It seems like he was growing his social game by getting to know Omar a little bit more, but he was also just growing as a person, which I think is really important for your survivor journey. Away from, you know, the money and the experience itself, growing as a person is definitely huge. And to see Mike be as accepting as he is, especially, you know, being in the age demographic that he's in, it was really cool to see. I know that on Twitter, Omar even came out and said that he was really appreciative of the representation. And then we get started with the challenge. This is the type of challenge I think I'd be fantastic at. I'm not going to lie. It was, you know, jumping, swimming, moving the buoy, and then finishing things off with little shooty hoops, and I think I would crush it. In practice, I probably would have already been medically evacuated because I'd be too hungry to stay, but it was a challenge that I think I would be pretty good at. As the challenge ensues, it's pretty close. Omar McBuckets over there, and he cannot miss. Unfortunately, he does miss his 5th shot, and then Jonathan starts shooting. And it's a wrap from there. I think we all sort of know once Jonathan gets involved, the challenge is basically over. You know, he turns it on and immediately wins. I think he went like 5 for 7 shooting that thing. So made his first 4. It was immediately obvious. After Omar missed one more time, Jonathan just put it away. Then we have Drea. Once we get back to camp, she expresses that she needs to drop Romeo. He's starting to panic. He's starting to run around. She's just really showing her real dynamic gameplay at this point. It's not really about the relationships for her. It's about who in the game can get her the furthest. And I think that was a huge moment for her. She ends up giving up her spot at the challenge for Mary Ann. And then she, of course, finds another advantage. I don't understand how she is possibly doing this. And she saw the beware and she didn't care. She said, you know what? This is an opportunity for me to gain some more power. She's playing 100 miles an hour. She has not taken her foot off the gas, and it was awesome to see. This is a very weird side note. The peanut butter and jelly in this episode looked insanely good. Usually with Survivor food, I'll put a little picture. Usually Survivor food looks like that, and it is disgusting. The pizzas in the past have looked like they've been sitting on the beach for upwards of 3 weeks. So seeing an actual, just a standard peanut butter and jelly sandwich that good, I was impressed. Omar, Mr. Buckets himself, continues to improve his game. He continues to call shots, and he's doing it from a really, really cool spot. And he is very much in the passenger seat. That's the sort of game that I would like to play. And I think that if he gets to the end, it's a kind of game that a lot of the jury is going to respect. He has a say in everything. But because he didn't have a vote, and because people don't really know where his true colors are, the minority alliance, not even alliance at this point, they're just kind of chilling. But the minority are all coming to him and trying to gain him as a number. So he's getting all the information, and he can just run it back to his alliance, and then they can continue to run the game. Every single episode, I'm more and more impressed with what he's doing out there. Then we have Drea capitalizing on her advantage. She has to reach her hand into this kind of disgusting red dye and grab her advantage, and it basically is, you know, a pun about getting caught red-handed, and she very much does get caught red-handed, and it was a very cool variation of the twist. She got the knowledge is power advantage, which we have seen in the past, but the way that she had to do it was cool. At the immunity challenge, Jeff tempts the tribe, as he does so often, For anybody who watches Big Brother, it is the exact same strategy as Dan's funeral. Marianne got a lot of good favor at that moment, and everybody thought that it was very genuine, including me watching. And that was a great moment because it really showed that she is playing this game hard. And the majority of the cast right now, I don't think really sees it. It was impressive, and I'm definitely proud of her gameplay on that front, and I think she did a really great job. In the immunity challenge, Tori does win again. That's back-to-back immunity challenges, only person to wear the necklace. And it was a pretty good showing. It was an endurance competition, and of course, Jonathan comes down to the end. But her strategy in the competition was a lot better. She was using probably a third of the energy, so she did great. And at this point, I'm just thinking Jonathan has to get back to camp and start scrambling. You know, he's a challenge beast, so I figure he'd get back to camp and be very nervous that his name is on the chopping block. You always have to take out the challenge beast as soon as they lose a challenge. And they get back to camp, and no one even says his name. Nobody questions Jonathan, which I think is really, really good for his game. If nobody is really realizing that they have to get him out when they can, then he can string together a couple of the immunity wins, like I said last time, and he can actually get to the end. And we've seen this in practice this episode where he's not even remotely on the radar for anybody. I guess his Achilles heel would be puzzles, and we haven't really seen him compete in anything puzzle-related yet and come up big. But I think if he wins an immunity challenge with a puzzle, I think people are going to immediately want to get him out because they're really underestimating his smarts at this point. And we haven't really seen him do a puzzle all season, so I'm interested as well to see if he can hold his own in that sort of competition. After they do get back to camp, like I said, I was expecting Jonathan to be the one scrambling. It turns out it's Romeo, and he really starts to stir the pot. He doesn't believe people when they're telling him that they want Chanel out. It has worked for players in the past where they'll try to stir the pot, they'll get some names thrown out, they'll say some he said, she said, who's telling the truth to some of the alliances, and it'll start to break them down. But I don't know if he didn't do a very good job of it, or if the alliances at the moment are just so strong they weren't really interested in hearing what he even had to say. But they were completely unfazed. Romeo basically was just running around like a chicken with his head cut off, and it actually put him on the chopping block, which is ironic. He wasn't supposed to be a target, and then Omer gets upset with him, realizes that Chanel is just kind of chilling, and then Romeo is doing the polar opposite, and Omer wants him gone. Mike does not go for it. He doesn't want to damage his relationship with Roxroy. If he burns that bridge with Roxroy, not only is that one less jury vote if they get to the end, but if something happens in the alliance, he now has Roxroy still on his side rather than burning that bridge, even though he's not technically like a main player in the alliance. So that was awesome. Chanel going home was very telling for what's to come. I think that the majority alliance is probably going to stay strong. We saw some highlights from next episode about an all-guys alliance, and we'll see. I don't really buy it. I think everyone in this alliance is in such a good spot that pulling out of this alliance just because there's extra numbers with the men doesn't make any sense. It also, just the demographic of the men in the game right now, it doesn't seem like they're so testosterone-fueled, men, like some all-guys alliances that we've seen in the past. So now, at Tribal Council, we had High blowing up Romeo's game a little bit with some very specific subtweets. He never mentioned Romeo, but I think everybody sort of knew who he was talking about because he was talking about scrambling, and Romeo was really the only person doing that. So I think it was pretty clear. High definitely does not care, and nobody played their shot in the dark. I thought Romeo was absolutely going to play his shot in the dark. He was more paranoid than we've seen in quite some time. In the end, it was a split vote, and Chanel does go home. I think they did a really nice job in this episode with the edit in particular. Everybody sort of got their screen time, and a lot of different voices were heard. We're getting to know these characters. Everybody is sort of developing as a player, and then we're also getting some great gameplay. My winner predictions, there's not really too much update, which is awesome. That always makes me feel great. I had Omer, Jonathan, Drea, and High. I mean, those are still my favorites at this point. Like I said, Mike is definitely growing his resume, but if he's up against any of these four, I just don't see it happening. He's definitely a great player, but, Omer right now is the Godfather. Jonathan is Hercules. Drea has every advantage under the sun, and she's also playing an incredible social game. And then High continues to stay in the driver's seat. He's in the majority alliance, and he has a couple of advantages himself. I don't really think anybody else besides Mike really has entered the threshold of possible winners. But yeah, these are still my favorites for sure. I just wanted to take this time to sort of show where this series is going, the direction that I'm looking to take with things like this. It's probably going to be very review-based recaps, things of that nature, my opinion on certain topics. This is a wrap for episode 2. I will be back with episode 3 next week. If you guys enjoyed, please like it, comment, let me know what you liked, let me know what you didn't like, let me know what I did last week that you didn't get to see this week that you really enjoyed. Thank you very much. This was lovely. Great talking to you guys. This has been the Backseat Podcast with Mike Goodman. Peace.